Gemma, I want to take what you said to Jenny here, because I believe there's two things that you're saying, Jen, and Jenny, if you could respond to this. One is that, yeah, there shouldn't be collusion in reviewers and game developers in the fact that whether or not they're paid, whether or not they slept with the person, they shouldn't be writing a good review based on that. But at the same time, Gemma's also saying that video game reviews shouldn't address ideological standings that the game may or may not have. Why is that the case, Jenny? Is Gamergate about one or the other, or both?
Gamergate is essentially about corrupt journalism. Gemma had a great point, because these corrupt journalists, what they're doing is they're going against the code of ethics in accordance to the Society of Professional Journalism. This is highly unprofessional, and I'd like to take the time right now to list some of the websites who are involved in this corrupt journalism right now. They are the following: Kotaku, Polygon, Ars Technica, Rock Paper Shotgun, Gamma Sutra, and NeoGAF. These are the prominent figures of the gaming journalism industry today, and they need to be told off. It's not right what they're doing.
So let's change gears a little bit. Let's concede that there are trolls, that there are extreme trolls out there who have harassed and threatened certain people who've spoken out against Gamergate and those who have spoken for Gamergate. And that you would all say, Georgina, you would say they don't speak on behalf of the greater movement, right?
Oh, absolutely no way. And I'd like to say for a start, I've never said that I'm a Gamergate supporter. I'm quite neutral on the subject. But on both sides, I would say the vast majority of the death threats and the harassment is probably done by a number of one or two specific individuals and trolls on both sides. You know, there's never, when you have such a large group of people, for example, the subreddit Kotaku in Action for Gamergaters has 11,000 subscribers. So, you know, it's a huge movement. And there is always going to be a couple of people within that movement who, you know, aren't doing the nicest of things. And you're never going to stop that with a movement of this scale. But at the same time, the vast majority of Gamergaters that I've spoken to, they're the nicest, intelligent, respectable people. And they came and they approached me because of my article, which was actually sort of hanging slightly on the anti-Gamergate side. When I wrote it, they came to me and they said, well, if you want to know more about Gamergate, then we're more than welcome, you know, to answer the questions. On the other side, with the anti-Gators, they banned me. They called me, am I allowed to swear? They called me shitty. They started sending me harassing tweets. And actually, I felt that if anything, I was slightly fighting for them. But now I'm definitely completely, you know, neutral, if not leaning on the Gamergate side, because everyone there has been nothing but nice to me, and everyone on the other side has started to harass me, actually.
Ricky, I'd like to add on to that. Just the fact that these harassments, they're left and right, essentially. And we cannot just pinpoint these harassments onto specific movements. I mean, the harassments that Brianna Wu has been getting, all these other harassments, they have not been directly linked to Gamergate. So for you to say and for you to discuss these harassments and misogyny and all that in relation to Gamergate, I find that very offensive, because Gamergate does not stand for that at all.
Mm-hmm. But that's you as one supporter of Gamergate
that is
saying
not me as one supporter,
well,
Ricky. This is a mass movement. We are not focused on misogyny. We are not focused on harassment. If you go to 8chan, the forums for Gamergate, there's sticky posts that directly say, we are not going to harass anyone. We are not going to threaten anyone. I encourage you to check it out. Gamergate is not about threatening other people. We are all human beings, and all we want is journalistic integrity.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to add to that. Sorry. I'd just like to add to that. You know, we keep coming back to this issue of misogyny, and it's just not the case. You know, you've seen us, 3 women here. We love video games. We adore video games. whenever somebody we have seen has been harassed, first people to jump onto it and say quickly, get this person down now, has been Gamergate. Yet, whenever there is harassment, it is pinned on us, and there is no proof at all that it's connected to Gamergate. You have no proof, and it is really upsetting to see that Gamergate is being tagged and being assaulted by this, with these tags saying that we are a misogynistic movement. We don't want women in games. You've got 3 women here who strongly support, ethics in games journalism. We do not support harassment, but you cannot empirically prove that it was Gamergate who had anything to do with this harassment. And it's frankly insulting.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this. I have 3 women that I'm talking to right now who support Gamergate. As an interviewer, I have to be somewhat objective. I have to play devil's advocate in order to make a conversation happen. I can't sit here and just agree with everything that the 3 of you say. And I have people on Twitter who are doing this as well. Ricky, stop asking questions of the forum. So have you stopped beating your kids yet? Yes, we all believe in equality. There's lots of other questions. This is incredible. Ricky Cam gets 3 women on his show so he can constantly interrupt them and ignore all points they bring up. I can't sit here and I can't say, yes, this is true. Yes, you are right every time. I want the Gamergate people who are watching this, who are tweeting me right now, to know that it is not my job to sit and say, Georgina, Gemma, Jenny, you are right. It's my job to initiate, engage, and have a conversation, and to, in some capacity, reflect the other side of that conversation in order to get them to continue to talk. Jenny, I have to ask you a question, again, about feminism. And my question here is, so often it seems that supporters of Gamergate also support issues against feminism. They support YouTube videos. They support statements against certain types of feminism. How can Gamergate really extricate itself from criticizing feminism, seeming misogynistic, and these threats? Because it seems like you really want to. Do you feel like you have a responsibility to really pull Gamergate away from that in terms of how the media perceives it? And how do you think you can do that?
Ricky, I'm glad you brought this up, because when you say that Gamergate is against feminism, they're not against the majority of the feminist group. What they're against is the radical feminist movement, the ones that call themselves social justice warriors. These women and men are essentially very negative. They want men to just disintegrate. It's not right what they're doing. They become professional victims in a sense, telling us that we should check our privilege every now and then. There's no opportunity for us to even discuss the issues of feminism.
Jenny, if you're finished, could I say something?
Yes, please, Georgina, go ahead.
Yeah, I would also say that there are plenty of feminists in the movement, and a lot of sex-positive feminists are also part of the Gamergate movement. I myself am a sex-positive feminist, and I think that the media is portraying Gamergate to be an anti-feminist movement, but it's not. I mean, there are a couple of non-feminist people within Gamergate, same as there will be non-feminist people within any movement or any group of people. But in general, I think a lot of Gamergaters are looking for the inclusion of women within video games. I mean, I'm personally looking for inclusivity in video games, and from what I've heard from female developers and stuff, they've said that they feel very welcomed within the gaming industry. And I just think that the movement is tarred with this brush in mainstream media, which is exactly what we're talking about in the corruption in mainstream media. And that, if you want to see the real perspective, get out there and talk to Gamergaters and meet them, and you'll see that they're this lovely bunch of people and they will answer all your questions. And the vast, vast, vast majority of them are pro-feminism or want to see more women in gaming. And that's what you have to do.
Sorry, can I just add that, there are so many diverse people in the movement. There are so many different political identities. We have left, we have right, we have so many different ethnicities. We have women, we have men, we have transsexuals, we have everybody here. We have gays, straight. There are so many different people here, and to label all of us, millions of tweets And to say we're an anti-woman campaign, even though there are strong women in this, I personally don't identify as a feminist, but no way have I ever, been attacked for not being a feminist. I've never attacked anybody who is a feminist, and there are so many strong, powerful voices in Gamergate who all we want to do is play games and enjoy games without being told we are horrendous people for doing so. Is that really too much to ask, to enjoy video games without the stigma of being called misogynists, of being tarred with hating women?
Yesterday, Eric Kane joined us, and he said it's troubling how easy it is to blame faceless Gamergate for the industry's women problems rather than address the structural issues. So I'm curious, Jenny, what are the structural issues that need to be addressed?
In regards to,
the gaming, in regards to the gaming industry.
The structural, this is exactly what Gamergate is for. We're talking about the relationship that consumers have with the journalism world in gaming. We see publicists and journalists have this corrupt relationship where they have incentives and we have publicists giving money to these journalists to have to give their games a very good score. It's things like this where we do feel like there needs to be a restructuralization.
I have a question about social justice warriors before we wrap up. Georgina, there's something to me that seems odd or off about referring to social justice warriors as a condescending term. It reminds me of Republicans referring to liberals as do-gooders or bleeding hearts. Rather than addressing the specific criticisms that you have, referring to someone negatively as a social justice warrior seems that it would do more harm than good for the Gamergate community. Am I wrong in that, Georgina?
I think the term social justice warrior came from the term which they use, which is social justice fears. And so we just put warrior in the end. I say we, I didn't come up with that term. I would say that not everyone uses that term, and it is slightly derogatory. But I think at the same time that a lot of these people are they're sort of using misogyny or racism or terms like this as sort of a shield instead of talking about the issue, which is the journalism, the journalistic integrity. And I guess it is used as a derogatory term. We're not talking about people who are feminists or who are anti-racism or whatever and fighting for these things within gaming. What we're talking about, I guess, when we're talking about social justice warriors, is people who are using misogyny, racism, ableism, so on, to deflect the true issue of the journalism. And so they're just using it as a shield to deflect the journalism. And that's what we should be talking about.
I'd like to add on to that. For all those social justice warriors out there, before you accuse me of being sexist and ignorant, let me remind you that I am a female, I am a feminist, and I am an ethnic minority. I suggest you listen and believe to what I'm saying right now.
Georgina, Gemma, Jenny, we have to wrap up. It's been really nice talking to you guys. I wish it wasn't virtual so I could jump in and give you guys a bit of a hug, because I think maybe I lost my cool a little bit for a minute trying to get all of us to talk at one time.
You were great.
Oh,
no,
thank you, Jenny. Georgina, Gemma, Jenny from the Gamergate community. Well, not necessarily you, Georgina, if I remember correctly. You're neutral.
Yes.
Thanks so much for joining me and having this conversation. And Gamergate, as it continues, is something that I think I'll probably continue to talk about on HuffPost Live, or if not on HuffPost Live, definitely in my Twitter feed, which I'll be on in just a couple minutes. Keep watching HuffPost Live. There's a lot more coming up.